Hello everyone, this is Tom Stanley, State Representative for Waltham and Lincoln, and this is the Stanley Report, where we have interviews with state officials and we delve into state issues and talk about things that are important to all of us and issues that relate to your tax dollars and how they're being spent and so forth. Today I'm very fortunate to have the Commissioner of the Department of Transitional Assistance, DTA, Commissioner Stacey Monahan. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Representative.
Thank you for taking the time. Greatly appreciate it. I know you graduated from Boston College.
Yes.
Right? And also you've been named, just recently named the Commissioner of DTA. I don't know, how many months ago now?
I was appointed interim in February, and the governor made the appointment final in June, so just a few weeks ago.
You know, you've really been on the hot seat. As everyone knows, the DTA and the food assistance and cash assistance program has been in the news for the last several years, and really mostly before your time. And you know, the public's been very upset when they hear about different cases where abuse has occurred. And I know in the legislature we've been dealing with the issue, and as a matter of fact, we can't get into too much about it right now, but I'm a member of the House Post Audit and Oversight Committee, and we looked into the reports of the family of, believe it or not, the Boston bombers were getting assistance and so forth. And from there, the House Post Audit Committee did a further review, which you and your office has been extremely helpful with, and also with the state auditor's office and so forth. But today I just wanted to give the folks at home an opportunity to understand, you know, what does the DTA do? How is the assistance provided? You know, what's the workload of the employees? What's being done to make sure that people that deserve public assistance or could really use it to get back on their feet get it, and the ones that, and I know it's few and far between, but there's enough to make people's blood boil, and when they're out working hard every day, paying their taxes and trying to make ends meet, the ones that do abuse the system, and it gets a lot of media attention and so forth. So maybe we can just start by talking a little bit about DTA.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. When I was appointed, the governor and Secretary John Polonowitz, who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, gave me a mandate to come into the agency and do a top-to-bottom review, make any changes that are necessary in policies, in programs, and in operations. And so that's what we've been doing. In late March, we launched a 100-day action plan, and a lot of the items and initiatives in that plan are meant to restore the credibility of the department with members of the legislature and with the public. DTA serves 1 in 7 people in the Commonwealth, and we provide both SNAP, which is food assistance, formerly food stamps, supplemental nutrition assistance program, and cash benefits to clients. So the SNAP program is 100% federally funded. We administer that program on behalf of the federal government, on behalf of USDA. And that's the overwhelming majority of our clients. It's about 887,000 people receive SNAP benefits. There's about 75,000 people that receive cash benefits, and in order to be eligible for cash benefits, you have to be poor, meaning not having more than $2,500 in assets, and also have a child, or be disabled or elderly. Mm-hmm. So we really serve the most vulnerable people in the Commonwealth, and our mission is to make sure that we are improving people's quality of life and helping them transition to a better quality of life. And so that's what we are spending a lot of time on right now, is making sure that our programs are administered in a way where people are getting on assistance only after they're determined to be eligible. So a lot of the things in our 100-day action plan are to determine on the front end to use additional resources to determine people's eligibility. So for example, just yesterday we implemented a match with the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And that's an expanded match. It actually gives our caseworkers access to people's photo ID, their whole license at the time of application. So we can do an identity check and make sure that, yes, you are Stacey Monahan, that sort of fits the description. We also can use that registry match to see every single vehicle that's registered at that house. So sometimes people will say that they don't know where the other parent is. However, if their car is registered at the house, that's going to indicate a fraud referral for us, and make sure that only people that are eligible are receiving benefits. Because it is, I think, I've done 29 listening sessions around the Commonwealth just to get feedback from people and to hear what people want. And overwhelmingly, people want to make sure that our kids have food, that our seniors are taken care of, that people with disabilities aren't suffering. They just want to know that it's being administered the right way.
Right.
And so that's what we're really working hard to try to do.
And you have been really busy, very difficult position you were put in, and I have to say that you've done a real good job. And the department has come a very long way, and it has had a lot of challenges. But maybe you could talk about what were some of the challenges before, and now what other technology improvements are being put into place or already have been put into place to. I know you're doing something similar with the schools and
Yes.
checking with them as well,
Yes.
right?
So at the beginning of the year, the Office of the Inspector General released a report on DTA and highlighted a lot of concerns. So we actually built our 100-day action plan off of a lot of findings that are in the Inspector General report. And the Auditor's Office also issued a report recently, and that had very, very similar findings. So we've been working really closely with both the Inspector General and the State Auditor to ensure them and their offices that we're on the right track. But some important things that we've done, for example, if you're incarcerated, you're not eligible to receive benefits. Prior to May of this year, we did a match on a quarterly basis with a federal entity, and that information was not verified upon receipt. Meaning when we would get a tip that Stacey Monahan is incarcerated, we would actually have to call that House of Correction and verify before we could take any action. Now we're matching directly with the Department of Correction, and we're matching on a weekly basis. So there's no lag time, and the caseworker doesn't have to take any action. It's an automated process. So when we get a hit, someone's case is closed if they're a single person receiving benefits, or if they're part of an assistance unit, the grant is reduced to reflect the fact that that person's not in the home any longer.
Right. And then, when that's implemented, that being implemented, I think it automatically, a lot of people stop trying to, abuse the system in different ways.
Exactly.
And I know the numbers have already gone down, right?
Yeah, we've seen some progress, and the legislature has been really leading the path on a lot of these things. So 2 budgets ago, the legislature passed and the governor signed restrictions on what people can use their cash benefits for. It is important, the EBT card is the card that we administer both benefits on. So the SNAP dollars benefit and the cash dollars are on the EBT card, which you can use as a debit card. It looks similar to a credit card. And so we've been working really hard on making sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that the cash restrictions are enforceable. So that's alcohol, tobacco, lottery. That was 2 years ago. Then last budget cycle, there were some further restrictions implemented, and travel agencies, casinos, jewelry stores, those types of things. So what we're doing now, starting my second day, I started getting a report from our Xerox, from our vendor, who keeps track of all of the transactions of our clients. So I get a biweekly report, and we review that for every ATM withdrawal and every point of sale transaction. It's about 90,000 transactions at about 7,000 unique locations every 2 weeks. We've actually gone out to stores to do the inspections to see if, in fact, they are not eligible for people to use their cash benefits at. Starting this week, we will be blocking ATM withdrawals at restricted locations. And shutting off people's point of sale ability to take EBT if your establishment is considered a prohibited establishment. So we are doing all of those things to monitor. I've done several of the inspections myself at locations because particularly in more rural environments, a store could be called Joe's Liquors, for example,
Right.
but when you go in there and look at it, they actually have milk, bread, diapers, enough product and fresh product with, the sell by date is still before. That people wouldn't, their purchases, you would be eligible to use your cash benefits at
And
those
in those
places.
cases, I imagine if someone still wanted to abuse, they could go to that place to buy and use it to buy liquor if the clerk, didn't stop them from doing it. But I imagine out in the far reaches of the state, there's not a lot. I mean, it's very difficult to get to grocery stores and in a lot of cases, right?
Exactly. If you don't have transportation, a lot of our clients don't have cars.
Right.
In more rural environments, public transportation is much less reliable, or it's harder to access. So
Right.
we've also, though, done, for the first time ever, a real partnership with law enforcement around the Commonwealth. So part of the legislators, the new law that was passed actually puts penalties on the retailers that are criminal penalties. So the police, we have to engage with law enforcement. So we've done a lot to meet with statewide organizations, the Mass Major City Chiefs, the Chiefs of Police Association. I'm scheduled in mid-August to go out west to the Western Mass Chiefs of Police and do a lot of education and partnership with them, because what I have is the data of where the activity is occurring,
Right.
and what they have is the ability to take enforcement.
Right.
So we're doing those types of things. Just yesterday, we announced that we've signed a SLEB agreement with USDA that makes us a state law enforcement bureau, which gives us investigatory powers. So we're now partnering with municipal police forces. They're signing what are called sub-SLEB agreements, and that allows us to work with them to identify places where there's potential SNAP trafficking, which is where someone would go in and sell their SNAP benefits for 50 cents on the dollar to get cash. Because for your SNAP benefit, you can only use that benefit to purchase food, unprepared, fresh food. So sometimes people will sell their card to access cash. And that is a criminal enterprise that is going on in mostly smaller stores that are in different communities, and they're making a lot of money off of this this engagement.
Right.
So we're going to work with local law enforcement. We'll be able to provide them with decoy EBT cards and some other assistance to help with the investigation, so we can close these places down and make sure that people that need our benefits are using them as intended and appropriate.
And I mean, all of this is is a shift in the mission, really, of the agency. I mean, before it was just strictly providing assistance for the poor that needed it to get back on their feet. And I think the agency really didn't have the ability to prevent a lot of the fraud that was occurring. But as you pointed out, the legislature made a big point of, because of public demand as well, of saying, we want to make sure that, the abuse is limited. You can never probably prevent it completely, but we should be doing all the things that we can. And it's important. I know you and your office have spent a lot of time doing this, and it's not really what, what the agency was designed for, but it's very important because the public has to believe in the program.
That's right.
And they have to believe in the integrity of the program. And no one wants to see, it causes all sorts of problems when they believe that, and they see other people abusing the system. And, ultimately that negatively affects families that really do need
That's right.
the assistance and so forth. I'm not sure if we covered everything about the scope of the public assistance offered through DTA, but if there's anything else that you can think of that the office provides, just so people have a good understanding.
So those are the two major types of programs that we implement, the SNAP food assistance program, and then there's two cash programs. One is TAFDC, and that's for poor families with dependent children, and the other is EAEDC, and that is for elderly and disabled. And the asset limit for the EAEDC program is actually $250 for a single person. So these are really the most poor citizens in the Commonwealth that need some assistance. But you're exactly right. I mean, for me, DTA is overwhelmingly, and our mission is a human service agency. We are not a law enforcement agency, but we have to take every step to ensure that taxpayers know that we are making sure the benefits are going to only people that are eligible to receive them, and that people that are getting benefits are using them as intended and as appropriate. And so it is, it's a fine line to walk, because we definitely want to make sure that everyone who's eligible is getting assistance. And we also want to make sure that people that are on cash assistance, that are TAFDC clients, are getting the services and the resources that they need. People are only eligible to receive TAFDC for 24 months in a 60-month period. So we have people for a relatively short period of time. We need to make sure that we're giving them resources, training, getting them on a path to self-sufficiency, and spending that time really wisely, so that when they're transitioning off of our benefits, they're in a much better place than they were when they came to our door for assistance.
Right. Now, the workload for your employees, what is that like and what do most of the employees do in the agency?
It's significant workload. We have about 1,600 case managers. We have 22 offices around the Commonwealth, and we administer about $2 billion a year in benefits. Mm-hmm. And so with the downturn of the economy for the last 5 or 6 years, it's been really challenging, because caseloads have increased and resources to hire new case managers haven't been available, just due to the nature of the economy. So we actually, in the 100-day plan, we've hired 134 new caseworkers. Our last class is in training right now and will be deployed to the field. And that's all in an effort to reduce caseloads and make it more manageable for our staff.
And reduce fraud.
And reduce fraud,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So looking forward into the future, where do you see the agency going, or are there any other programs that you're going to be implementing in terms of streamlining the services, or making things more efficient, preventing fraud, and so forth?
Yes. The 100-day plan is merely phase 1 of the DTA turnaround plan. So in no way are we prepared to do a victory lap at this point. I think as we're doing this deep dive, we're going to find some additional things that need to get fixed. And I vow to fix them quickly and appropriately and transparently, and make sure that we have credibility in this agency, so that I can go to members of the legislature and have that conversation, and that we're taking these matters seriously. But we are doing a lot of things in the next 6 months to move our whole business process and to streamline that, which will take some burden off of our case workers, and also utilize technology. There hasn't been a big technology investment in this agency, or in a lot of agencies in state government.
Easier said than done, right?
Yes, but it's really important. And I think that all of the things that we can do to modernize the way that we do our business, and to really utilize technology solutions, is going to make the fraud more difficult. So as we are reaching out to sister agencies across state government and in the federal government to get real-time data on people's situations, to be able to determine eligibility and actually reduce the burden on clients. So if we're going to get to a point in the next 2 years that if you are a client of Mass Health, we're going to be able to see all of your information. We're going to be able to make that eligibility determination based on information that you've provided to Mass Health and the current matches that we have going on with sister agencies. So it's not only good for our workers, it's not only good for the taxpayer, it's also good for our clients, and it will streamline that whole process.
That's great. That's wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview for Waltham and for the Stanley Report. Just to wrap it up, if anyone out there in the public, if they notice any fraud happening or they suspect it, what should they do?
I would encourage people immediately to call. We have a fraud hotline that's 24 hours a day, 1-800-FRAUD-99.
Okay.
We absolutely investigate every single tip that we receive, and a lot of the actionable tips that we get are exactly from people that call in and say, my neighbor is on assistance, her boyfriend or husband is living in the house with them, those types of things. And we work really closely with the state auditor's office, Bureau of Special Investigations. We refer a lot of those types of tips to the auditor's office, because they actually have field investigators and they can pursue criminal violations on people.
Well, that's great. Well, again, thank you very much. Perhaps 6 months or a year from now, we'll come back and check in with you and see what DTA is doing back, in the future.
I would love that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.